schedule. Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and I know you guys have been waiting for this video for some time. This is my top 10 Eden / the Eden Project songs countdown. Now if you guys watched my Rain Temple album review, you'll remember that I mentioned that I'd be going back to Maine and that I'd be making a couple reviews there. I sadly have fallen a little bit behind, but I'm hoping to push out some new content in the next few days. Next week I'll be a counselor over at a camp I've been going to for a while, so I'll be probably pretty dry on uploads, but I'm going to try to do some pre-uploads so I can get some content out to you guys. But I figured the first one I do while I'm back in Maine is my top 10 Eden Project / Eden countdown, because both of my Eden reviews were filmed back when I was still in Maine and living here. This video is in anticipation for Eden's new EP, I Think You Think Too Much of Me, which is dropping later this August, which is actually going to be after I'm back in Washington, but I figured I might as well make it back in here, kind of just to build up hype for the EP. A few of you guys have actually been suggesting that I review his new track Drugs, which is the second single off his upcoming EP, but I kind of prefer to stay away from it just because I want to leave a lot of content to talk about in my I Think You Think Too Much of Me EP review, and I'm going to wait to touch bases on that EP until I'm back in Washington in my dorm, so it might be a little bit of a delay just because I'll be moving in and everything, and I'll be pretty busy as soon as I get back to Washington. But for now, let's count down my top 10 Eden and Eden Project songs.
All these words meant nothing, and I've always been this heartless. And we're just having sex, no, I would never call it love.
I actually thought about this one for a long time, kind of thinking about, oh, do I really want to put one from his new EP on when it's so fresh? Should I just kind of stick to his classics? And ultimately I decided that I do love this one enough that I should feature it on my list, but just at the bottom slot. There are many reasons why I like this track, but a lot of those kind of tie into a track that's a bit higher on this list, so I'm going to wait till then to talk about most of them. But other than that, this song is probably the cleanest sounding song Eden's made to date, probably his poppiest sounding single, even more so than the entirety of the End Credits EP, and made for something that, although I was a little bit iffy at first, has definitely grown on me with each passing listen. I find something new in this track every time I listen to it, and I'm just in love with it. It's a great song.
So let's run, make a great escape, and I'll be waiting outside for the getaway. It doesn't matter who we are, we'll keep running through the dark.
When the Eden Project finally decided to give up that project and pursue the alias Eden, I was a little bit nervous and kind of scared to see what he was going to put out with the future, and the first time I ever heard Nocturne, which was his first single as Eden, I was actually a little bit worried because I wasn't absolutely crazy about the single. Although I do like that one a lot more now than I did at that time, I was still a bit worried. And the song End Credits was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for me. Because in my mind, his music went from the dark, slow, experimental sounds of Nocturne to this very bright and poppy, yet somehow dark, title track for the End Credits EP, and it was accompanied, of course, on the Mr. Suicide Sheep channel by an incredible music video which was filmed across the board from Seattle to New York, which was really cool. As a big fan of the Eden Project's cover of Crazy in Love by Beyonce, which also featured Leah Kelly, I absolutely loved her vocal accompaniment on this song. This is also a track with a lot of crossover appeal. I've seen a lot of my friends come to become fans of Eden because of this song, and because of that I have a lot of really good memories. I think this is one of Eden's shiniest vocal moments across the board, and overall I definitely think it deserves its spot on this list.
I'm not singing for your XO, I'm just singing cause it's over.
Before the End Credits EP, there was another turning point for Eden, and that was XO. With XO, we saw a glimpse into the future where the Eden Project was kind of foreshadowing what was to come with his Eden project, where it's got a lot of heavy guitar and pop influence but stays true to its electronic roots. In a kind of electronic Ed Sheeran-esque song, we saw the Eden Project putting out some really harsh lyricism for the first time ever, which I absolutely loved about this one. Although this is undoubtedly his biggest single to date, and it's gotten a little bit tiresome in the past few months, I can definitely see how this song's success came as a turning point for Eden's career. Of course, in large part, I do think Sex was kind of modeled after this one, where in Sex we kind of see the woman getting the last laugh and Eden kind of actually catching feelings, whereas this one Eden was kind of more in control of his feelings. I went a lot more in depth on this thought in my Sex track review, so make sure to check that one out if you want to hear a little bit more of what I think.
Stay, you're not gonna leave me. This place is right where you need to be, and why your words gotta mean so much to them, and they mean nothing to me.
Wake Up initially hit me hard for its beautiful soft instrumental that just transitions into its crazy horns toward the end of the song, but I've actually connected to it more recently for its lyricism. I always loved the lyric about him saying 30,000 feet in the air, especially because I'm constantly watching his Snap stories, and most of them are him on an airplane, which really made me reminisce about that. But in another place, I don't feel like I really understood this song until I moved 3,000 miles away from my home in Maine to Washington. And then Eden's lyrics about pursuing a better life half a world away actually really started to hit me and connected with me a lot better than most of his songs did. I really didn't start thinking about these themes until I limited myself to just about only listening to the end credits EP on my walk home from work, which almost always concluded with Wake Up and found me connecting to the song a lot more than I ever had before. Even though I loved this song when I was still in Maine, I found myself loving this song a lot more when I moved out to Washington. The Fire was Eden's second vocal appearance and first producing appearance ever on Monster Cat. This one actually makes me wonder why Puppet and the Eden Project didn't just initially start an EDM duo together, because this would have been great. This is absolutely one of the most killer electro house songs of 2015, and one that a lot of people missed out on. This one split into a ton of different parts. I don't think it's one of Eden's most spectacular vocal appearances, especially in terms of lyrics. But production-wise, I think Eden's kind of grimy centered production and Puppet's more bright indie electro house sounds combine perfectly to just make this beautiful anthem, and one that is probably, to be honest, one of my all-time favorite Monster Cat releases. If you like really feelsy EDM, you'll love this one, and I definitely suggest taking a few listens to it.
Cause you say I drink and I smoke and I talk too much, but I know you lie when you said that you just gotta go and save yourself.
Doing a complete 180 flip from track 6, Gravity, I think, is probably one of Eden's best vocal appearances rather than in terms of production. Both in terms of his vocal range and lyricism, I think this is arguably one of his best. In fact, I think in terms of lyricism, this song has some of my favorite lines Eden has ever put out, right next to Fumes, which sadly didn't make this list. So Gravity's placement on this chart is primarily to be the big lyrical track on this list.
Before tomorrow comes and it all is lost again, the ashes burn down brightest.
Now from here we're going to start getting into the tracks that actually impacted me a lot as a listener. Scribble was the Eden Project's first ever Monster Cat release, and I wasn't absolutely blown away with Eden's vocal appearance or with the production by Puppet on that one, making both their debuts on the label. But regardless, Eden's appearance on the track turned me over to be a fan of him, although I had listened to his previous works like Iris with Exit Friend Zone. What really turned me on to this wasn't the original mix of this, but the Eden edit of the song, where we saw Eden getting into a much more piano-oriented and much, in my opinion, more beautiful rendition of the track. And since when I heard this mix, I actually hadn't heard the extended mix of the song, which does include kind of the similar vocal. This one came as almost an entirely new song for me, and with its drastic changes in tempo and tone, definitely turned me into an Eden fan. This probably was the track that really turned me over into listening to more of his solo music.
And I've been trying to dig my way out of the ocean and punch a hole in the sky.
I had to make sure to throw one of the weird ones on this list, and Interlude is arguably one of his oddest tracks to date, next to Whoa as the Eden Project, but I feel like that one was kind of taking a little bit more of an Imogen Heap sound than kind of his own style. Interlude as a standalone is probably my favorite on his end credits EP. From its beautiful piano intro, to him just going absolutely hard as a rapper in the middle of the song, to its weird and wonky key change in the middle of the song. This one is just absolutely packed with oddness, and I can't get enough. It's easily been one of my favorites since my very first listen of this EP. From the moment it caught me off guard to right now, there's nothing that I find flawed in this track.
The aftermath is vacuum's lifeless. The afterglow makes the past so inviting. Oh no.
Jupiter is probably the song on this list that I have the deepest emotional connection to, and that didn't happen until after my review of the Bipolar Paradise EP. In fact, I don't think I've ever connected to a song as much in a point in my life as I did with this song, because a lot of this song is describing lyrics of jealousy and anger, both emotions that I was experiencing while I was really getting into this song. I don't want to get into that aspect too much, but just understand my deep emotional connection to this song in order to figure out its placement so high on this list. Other than that, I think Jupiter was the last dubstep-y sounding song Eden ever did, so I definitely find myself revisiting this one over and over and over, just kind of reminiscing about both my past and about Eden's past in electronic music.
I just keep waiting for Kairos.
Before I unveil my number one song, I'd like to provide an honorable mention, which is the song Kairos, which actually released quite a long time before I started listening to Eden's music, which is another reason why I didn't feature it on this list, because I couldn't really develop that same emotional connection as the other tracks when they released at certain points in my life. I actually didn't discover this one until I downloaded the Eden Project's full discography, but if you've heard the song, you can probably figure out why it would have made my list. It's just absolutely banging, hard electro house with some stellar vocals by Eden, kind of uses that same repetition that I liked in Elohim's Xanax. Just an absolute banger, and I definitely thought it deserved at least a mention in this video.
These are the times. These are the times we will hold in the silence, and I give it all of me. And it's alright that it's over, and I found fight like a soldier coming home in the silence, but I never felt so free.
Times Like These is easily Eden or the Eden Project's best song ever, and although I wouldn't necessarily consider it a absolute favorite for me, I think musically this was pushing boundaries that he had never pushed before. This was the song that concluded his Eden Project alias, and something that really turned me over and had me looking bright into the future of Eden's music after he closed down that project, which under that project he had released some of my favorite music ever. So this one gave me hope for the future in what lied with Eden's new project. From his vocal range to the lyricism to the production to the endless amounts of instrumentation and horns on this one is easily his most musically diverse and well-rounded single that he's ever released. Although this track isn't one that I listen to every single day, it is definitely a treat when I do get around to listening to it. If you're new to Eden, make sure to check these jams out. These I absolutely think are his best songs. Although if you listen to his full discography, I'm sure you'll find a lot of other gems that you like. If you are a big fan of Eden though, make sure to let me know what your favorite or maybe top 2 or 3 favorite Eden songs or Eden Project songs that you've ever liked. I really tried to center the top of this list toward what I think Eden's most underrated songs are, so a lot of people probably aren't going to be happy that the more popular ones are kind of toward the bottom, but oh well, I don't really care that much. Anyway, expect some new and fresh content in the next couple weeks, and I'm really hyped to hear this next Eden EP. I already ordered it on cassette and vinyl and all this other crap, and then I'm getting to see him next month, which is gonna be nuts. Make sure to catch him on tour if he's stopping in your city, and make sure to let me know if you guys want to see more top 10 videos in the near future from me. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.